Hi, I hope everyone's having a great holiday season. First, I want to say that I don't feel at all comfortable doing this, but I need to put my discomfort aside because I believe in this cause, and it's the most important thing I've ever done in my career. When I began working at the zoo nearly 38 years ago, it was not my intention to simply work for an attraction. I wanted to work for an institution that would make significant contributions to wildlife conservation in the wild areas where the wild animals we choose to exhibit naturally exist. The reality is that in a perfect world, we wouldn't need any zoos because everyone would be able to appreciate and see our world's wildlife in the wild. Unfortunately, most people will never have the opportunity to see a herd of elephants walking on the plains of the Serengeti, or tiger hunting in the forests of India, or howler monkeys calling in the canopy of the Amazonian rainforest. All things that I've been very privileged to see. Zoos play a critical role in providing those windows into our world that will hopefully inspire others to care and want to protect these amazing animals, and others like them, in the wild. It would be tremendously sad if the zoo were the last place where we could see them. Having said that, zoos need to do much more than build multi-million-dollar exhibits and use them as educational platforms. The time of simply putting animals on expensive exhibits for the public to view as a form of education through entertainment has passed. For a zoo to spend millions of dollars on an exhibit and not allocate at least a small percentage of that money to actual conservation work in the wild is unacceptable and, in my personal opinion, hypocritical. Though I have personally raised hundreds of thousands of dollars over the years for a wide variety of conservation projects, ranging from cheetahs in South Africa to harpy eagles in Panama, I realized that once I retired, that support would stop unless I could create a means to provide sustainable funding for conservation for the foreseeable future. I conceived the idea of creating an endowment that would restrict all money generated by it to conservation and education programs outside of the zoo in the wild habitats where so much of the wildlife we choose to exhibit originates. Coming up with the idea was one thing. Having it come to fruition was quite another. I realized that for an endowment to be able to produce any significant money on an annual basis, it needed to have a balance of at least $1 million. My goal, which seemed very lofty at the time, was to be able to raise $1 million before I retired. Though many people told me this was extremely ambitious, I committed myself to doing it, even if it meant I had to work another 20 years. Well, thanks to many dear friends whom I've shared this dream with and who have in turn made generous contributions, I'm extremely proud to say that the Ron Magill Conservation Endowment at the Zoo Miami Foundation now stands at nearly $1.5 million, and it's the largest conservation funding source at the zoo. This past year alone, the endowment has provided tens of thousands of dollars to support, among other things, conservation efforts for cheetahs in South Africa, a rehabilitation facility for wildlife in Panama, a rehabilitation facility for wildlife in India, conservation work through Florida Audubon and the Florida Everglades, scholarships for wildlife ecology and conservation students at the University of Florida, a conservation grant through the Zoo Conservation Outreach Group at the Association of Zoos and Aquariums, and an expedition to Antarctica that will take place in January with a student who won this year's Eco Hero contest designed to expose environmentally conscious students to the world's natural wonders. Though I realize that there are many worthy charities that are in need of support, I wanted to make my friends aware of this endowment. Any donation you make to it is totally tax deductible through the Zoo Miami Foundation, which is a 501c3 organization that has received the highest 4-star rating from Charity Navigator for the past 3 years. Your donation is in reality an investment because it would become part of the main endowment fund, which does not get spent and only helps to increase the dividends produced and distributed to worthy conservation efforts. This endowment will provide conservation dollars for the foreseeable future and therefore will help to support and protect wildlife long after all of us are gone. It really is the gift that will keep on giving. This will be a legacy for all of us. My favorite saying is, life is not measured by the number of breaths that we take, it's measured by the number of times our breath is taken away. The beauty and wonder of wildlife has taken my breath away more times than I can count. The goal of this endowment is to help ensure that those breathtaking moments can be experienced by others for generations to come. So, if during this time of giving you have the ability to contribute to something that will help protect and conserve our world's precious wildlife for the future, please consider giving to the Ron Magill Conservation Endowment at the Zoo Miami Foundation. Just click on the attached link, or you can mail a check to the address on the screen. I will personally respond to each and every donor with a letter of thanks. No amount is too little. And if you cannot make a contribution at this time, I understand. I only ask that you keep the well-being of wildlife in your heart and mind. I apologize for this long appeal. I thank you for listening to it, and I wish you and yours a safe and wonderful holiday season.